Hi guys, and welcome to this week's episode of my Kickstarter Diaries, the place where I get to share all of my upcoming backs and purchases with you, and you more and more are sharing back with me everything that you're purchasing and why. And I really appreciate everyone in the chat, in the comments, who have been giving me insight into games that I've had questions about. So thank you so much for that. I really enjoy the all of the interaction, but also we are very appreciative for all of the support of our channel. So let's get into what's happening this week on Kickstarter. The first game that was an instant back for me this week was a little card game called Momiji. And at first, when I saw the previews for this game, I wasn't sure if it was going to be quite crunchy enough for Maggie and I. But the more that I kind of got into this, the more interesting it became. Momiji in Japanese means like the red leaves, particularly of the maple tree. And it's a really big tradition in Japan that when the leaves turn red, you can go to shrines and temples to have viewings, and they just have the most incredible landscapes. We were fortunate enough to kind of do a tour of this a couple of years ago in Japan with my mum and my brother and sister, and we went around to all of these beautiful landscapes and took some photos, and it's just stunning, and it's so peaceful, and I love that this is being brought to life in this board game. One thing that I really enjoy about this game is that in the starting draft, you're getting these landscape tiles, and these landscape tiles piece together to form a single landscape, so they can all connect together, providing you with this unique landscape. But then what they are actually doing is providing you with an asymmetric ability that can be triggered once per game. So you only get to use each one of these special actions, which have quite rule-breaking effects, once in a game. And then the rest of the time, you're really drafting and playing these leaf cards. And what's really cool about it, I think, is that the drafting is such that you can take all of one color, so they actually get stacked by color. So if I was to pick out of here, I could take both of the yellows. You can also pay acorns, which are the victory points and the currency, to draw more cards out before you get to pick your pile. I really love that kind of choice element in games. But then when you're playing them in front of you, you are stacking them from 0 to 3. So you can only put ascending numbers on lower numbers. And so at the end of the game, what you're doing is you're multiplying the top card by the number of cards in the stack. So if you had a 3 at the top, then you're timesing it out by 3 or 4 cards or whatever you have in your pack. In your deck of that particular leaf color to get your score for that leaf color. And on top of that, there are these objective tiles, which I think are really cleverly integrated into the game. Let's see if I can find a better picture. Of course, I'm getting the deluxe edition and not the base game, because that's why I'm here on Kickstarter. But there's these, basically the main difference between the base and the deluxe game is that you get wooden acorns, and acorns are such a central component to the game that I do want those wooden ones. And you get this expansion, which comes with these wooden animals, so why wouldn't you? So anyway, these are the objectives that I was talking about. So what's interesting about this is that they start as a common pool in the center of the game, and when you take one of those objectives, which is an action that you can do, you are basically saying, like, I'm going to go for this, and if you get it, you get 10 victory points for achieving that objective. But if you don't, the person who does, or the people who do, get 3 victory points. So you can kind of, it can be used in multiple ways. If you're taking it to stop someone else from getting the 10 victory points, so they only get 3, or because you know you're going to get it and you can get 10 victory points. So there's kind of a few different layers, more to think about here than I thought. I thought the Man versus Meeple play or setup and explanation of the game really helped me understand what this game is all about. I mean, their content is so great, and so that really helped me, and that's one that I backed this week. The next game that I backed this week was Città-Stato, which I'm probably saying in a horrendous Australian accent, but it does mean city-state. And as soon as I saw this, I knew that it was going to be something for Maggie and I. I mean, look at it. It just screams dry Euro cube pushing fun. It looks like a heavier game. And so I wasn't expecting it. But when I saw there was an early bird, I tend to jump on early birds pretty quickly. Because I do back a lot of things, and then, you know, I'll investigate it more deeply with a cup of coffee on another day, and consider whether I want to keep my pledge. In this case, I'm definitely keeping my pledge. Interestingly, it's a bag builder, which isn't necessarily something that Maggie and I enjoy a lot, but I think that the way that this has been implemented is really interesting because there's kind of an element of worker placement where actions become increasingly expensive. So the first action is 1 cube, and then you need to have a pair of the same color cubes, and it gets more and more expensive. And then that interacts with the actions that you can do based on the color of the cube. And there's a really interesting endgame scoring where you get to basically go through your cards again that you've collected. It just all looks like an interesting implementation of different mechanics, which everyone will know that I'm all about that. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to have backed this today. I should also say, this week, not today. I should also say that Rado has his countdown every month, which is just like one of my favorite videos that I anticipate every month. And I sit down and watch it from start to finish, all hour and a half of it. And, this made, I think it was number 4 or something on his list, 4 or 5 this month. And so that means quite a lot to me. Rado and his wife have very different, different games appeal to them that appeal to us, but I always appreciate that ranking and getting an understanding of the relativities of the different games that he reviews each month, because it's usually a lot of like the hotness, which is fabulous. And speaking of Rado, Luke and I were discussing in the comments that we were both very surprised that Twinkle was very highly ranked on Rado's list this month. And to be honest, this is one that I completely overlooked because as it came up in my Kickstarter feed, I was kind of like, that looks too light, doesn't really look like our thing thematically, or even with the inclusion of all of the different die, probably not for us. But certainly seeing it in Rado's list high made me reconsider it, maybe go back to it. I still haven't backed it, but I think it's really an interesting game, and I think that it's worthwhile checking out to see if it's right for you. So basically you're rolling, drafting die either from the center pool or from different colors, and the different colors relate to different styles of scoring, which to me reminds me of a recent game, Nidavellir, where the different colored cards relate to different scoring patterns. And then also you are building out this constellation where the die have to be descending in order. So you have the highest die in the center, and then they always have to be descending. And I think there's a lot of for a light game, there's a lot of interesting decisions that need to be made here. And it looks like an intriguing puzzle. For me, rolling of die is just not something that Maggie and I particularly enjoy, but also it's quite expensive for what it is, especially, obviously getting games to Australia. I don't like to talk about cost too much because it is so different when you're getting them to Australia. But for me, the base game cost for something that seems like a lighter, shorter game was a little bit high for me. And then on top of that, I've got to pay, a lot of postage. And some of the Kickstarter exclusives or the deluxe version getting even more expensive just included more die. Didn't really understand how that would contribute to the gameplay. But yeah, there's probably not enough here for us, but certainly check it out if it's something you think you might be into. And the next game that I'm not backing, but I think is really cute and beautiful is Tall Tales, which is competitive story writing, and basically you are narrating a story based on some cards that can help get you going or inspire that story, and then everybody is voting on the best the best scenes, I guess, to then stitch together into a full story that you can read out loud as a group and, you know, as a group of friends. And I can see how this would really resonate with people who are very much more creative than I am. I mean, I can barely get into a theme of a game, let alone write my own story. So this one is not for me. I don't think Maggie would particularly enjoy it either. So it's probably not for us, but I can see lots of people who are creative, who appreciate a game that's maybe less competitive, and even though it is a competitive game, kind of like building something together seems like a nice night to have in with a cup of tea. Also, I really appreciate that the designers here are it's self-published and they are making it available as a print and play straight away, which I think is really nice. And as they correctly point out, it's a game that could be played over Zoom, particularly in the current climate. It's really nice to see people or designers trying to do things to help people get through this period and connect with their friends and usual gaming group. And finally, I just want to touch on 2 games that are upcoming next week. I'm not sure I'm particularly excited about them personally for backing, but I know that so many people will be, including a lot of people watching this. So the first one is ISS Vanguard, which is coming from Awaken Realms, who of course make a whole host of games that are like Tainted Grail, that are particularly famous for being great solo experiences, but also great co-op experiences, very story-driven, narrative-led, you know, those kind of big box, big world, immersive experiences, which is not something that Maggie and I are into, but I can certainly appreciate it. I did watch some like early kind of gameplay demonstrations of this game where it looks like the campaign, or not the campaign, but the different places you can travel to or explore are contained in a book. And and apparently all the actions are incredibly thematic and tied to each of those different scenes. And so this is not coming to Kickstarter, this is coming to GameFound. So just be aware of that next week, that if you are on the lookout for this one, probably, you know, follow them on socials or something just to remind yourself to check this one out. And the final game that I'm going to talk about this week, and one that is upcoming for next week as well, is Vindication Chronicles. And I will put out there that Maggie and I have never played Vindication, and it gets amazing reviews. I don't know why we've never played it. I suspect probably something to do with the theme. I feel like I've gone down that rabbit hole a few times. But if you have played Vindication, please let me know what you think. You probably know a lot about what Maggie and I enjoy. So please let me know if you think we will enjoy this one. Chronicles is bringing an expansion to the game, which my understanding is kind of doubling down on the narrative element and allowing there to be, it sounds like almost a legacy style mechanic that from game to game, things that you did in a previous game are impacting on the future game. That's what it sounds like to me. I think a lot of people were hoping for a big box with everything contained in one box, and they've said that they're not going to do that for this Kickstarter, but that might be something to think about doing in the future. Either way, I'm interested to hear what you think, and then of course I'll be checking out that kind of all in where you get everything. Probably the Chronicles is less interesting to me, but definitely all of the previous base game and expansions. Please let me know what you think. That's everything this week. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, every week, this is, such a different part of our channel from our more formalized game reviews. This is just me getting to chat to all of you, and like I said, I just love the community and the fact that you're chatting to each other and all of that. I just love having a place to share all of our experiences of Kickstarter, and hopefully we're almost the end of all of our spending of 2020, but I'm excited to see what 2021 brings in the game world. So thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to chatting to you all in the comments and seeing you all next week. Bye for now.